I have 3 kids, and yes, they were all considered geriatric pregnancies. Thank you so much. I think sometimes this surprises people, or at least it surprises my critics. How can the shrill lady who's always raising money for Planned Parenthood have experienced the blessing of childbirth herself? Well, it's true. Even I find myself speaking in a voice I barely recognize when I see a small baby child. Choosing to be a parent is something I take extremely seriously. And this is not about to be a big pro-choice speech. You know me, that is a given. But this is about how I choose to show up for my family every single day. Sometimes it's waking up early to make sure there's a hot breakfast ready for my kids, even if they don't want it. Sometimes it means booking summer camp on my phone in the middle of a meeting because I forgot the deadline was that day. Sometimes it means taking on a job because it means that my kids will get health insurance. Sometimes it means that I'm doing a recording for my podcast and you can hear people stomping around in my house. Whatever the decision, I make them all through the lens of being a mom. I do. When I got full frontal and I was finally going to be in charge of my own show, I learned that we were slated to air on Monday nights, and I almost quit before I even began. I just assumed that meant that we would work through the weekends. I mean, it was a topical show. That's what everybody was telling me, and nothing, not even a show with my own name on it, would have made me miss weekends with my kids. Not ever, not in a million years. It was a no-brainer for me. Luckily, very luckily, I was not forced to make that decision. The show literally went on. I also got my weekends at home, and I've been a mom now for 18 years, which simultaneously feels like 2 days, but also a millennia. And I really am so proud of the mothering that I do. This is Choice Words. I'm Samantha Bee. Today, I spoke with comedian Chris Gethard. He is the host of the podcast Beautiful Anonymous and just released his latest audiobook and ebook, Dad at Peace, which is the last book in his trilogy available exclusively on Everend. In it, he chronicles the choice to, in his words, become boring and put comedy on the back burner for the sake of his son, which resonated with me so much. I feel like it's a conversation that more frequently I have with other moms, and I loved getting to talk to a dad about it. And he is anything other than boring. So take a listen and make good choices. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. So this show, as I'm sure you know, is all about choice. It should be. It's called Choice Words because you've made some really big choices in the last little while, especially big choices you've made. We're going to talk about all of that stuff. But choice means something different for each person. So, and we all make decisions in such different ways. So like, what's your approach?
Well, I've always been someone who really is highly susceptible to anxiety and stress.
Okay. Yeah.
So, if anybody here has heard of me, it's probably because I did an HBO special all about depression and panic attacks and how horrible they are. So choices can sometimes really trigger that stuff. So a lot of my choices is I've trained myself to kind of try to follow my instincts and follow them quickly and faithfully to avoid that.
Okay.
And one thing that I'm pretty proud of myself about, and I'm not saying this to try to sound like some sort of hero in any way, but I have often found that when I can resist the urge to let money be a motivator in the choices I'm making,
right,
that I often head towards the choices that are healthier. Sometimes
great.
they go hand in hand. Sometimes there's that nice thing. I'm not allergic to money.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of being stable.
It's nice to
for
eat.
myself and my family.
It's nice to be warm.
Yeah, it removes a lot of stress from one's life. And sometimes things dovetail nicely where I go, oh, it feels like the right choice on this one is the one that also is the one that's financially most beneficial. But I've often found that in our society and in entertainment, there's a lot of things where well, this is the money choice. And I often have a gut instinct of, I don't know that that's the right choice for me.
Right.
And I had to learn to trust that. And not everyone who's worked with me has always appreciated that.
Yeah.
But I have learned that if I can avoid the financial pressure being a major motivator, that then I can think more clearly.
Yes.
There's one thing I did that was when I was on this real hot streak for a handful of years there.
Yeah.
And I got offered something for big money. And I knew, I was like, this isn't totally sitting in a comfortable place in my gut. And it was really the first time in my career where I said, I have to do it anyway for the money. And to put that in perspective, I had a family member who had pretty massive medical bills at the time.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna put integrity by the wayside for really kind of the most hardcore I ever did.
Yeah.
And I can't regret the fact that it paid for a bunch of medical stuff.
Yeah.
I can't regret the fact that it's part of why I was able to buy a house. But I will say that anytime someone brings that project up to me, even if I'm out doing stand up and someone comes up and says, oh, I liked blank, and they name this one thing,
Right.
I know forever. It's not gone away in many years that I will always have an internal, I keep a nice game face on. I say, I'm so psyched that you liked it.
Yeah.
And it isn't on me to try to sit here and explain to people, but in my gut, I go, ooh, that one only got 75% there. And I kind of knew it was gonna.
Right.
And I'm mad. I'm mad about that to this day.
Right. It's hard, right? To have a game face about stuff where you have memories where you're like, for whatever reason, it just sticks in your craw. And you're like, every time I think about it, I get the same physical feeling. God damn it.
That one stings. That one just will always sting. But again, like I say, medical bills.
Medical bills.
The roof over my head right now.
Those are compelling reasons to give it.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think over time, when you have those projects that sting or just like your genitals just like constrict whenever you hear the name of the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The balls rise a little bit
like
up into the stomach every time.
Yeah, just a little shrinking, a little like gripping.
Yeah.
But then over so much time, sometimes you can compartmentalize it perfectly. And then once you can make jokes about it, like real ones that don't also sting, then then nature has healed.
I will say this, one thing I'm proud of is I'm also self-aware enough, and I grew up in a way where I will also say, I understand that I've lived a very lucky and blessed life, if this is the thing that we're talking about.
You don't have to.
I understand how lucky that is.
You don't have to do that.
It also still stinks.
It stinks.
Kind of do.
Do you?
You do and you don't.
I guess.
Because there's people who don't, and I know how I react to people. You know,
okay, fair.
When I once, this was actually something in my new book that I cut, but I will say I was once around, and I bet you've had your version of this as well. Being in entertainment, we are often around people who lose perspective.
Yes.
And I have witnessed some of those conversations where I did. I was once around a very famous stand-up at the Comedy Cellar who started berating his experience at a hotel where he called the concierge and said, hey, can you send up an IV drip full of rejuvenating vitamins?
What?
And when they said, we don't know what you're talking about, he said, well, that's a new trend where you can get IV drips of infusions of vitamins directly into your bloodstream. And they said, we don't do that here. And this person was at the Comedy Cellar telling this story, like, guys, what an idiot, right? And they were very, very famous. And I will say most of the other people there were like, oh, yeah, ha, 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 what an idiot. And I'm sitting here and going, that hotel person was correct. It is not standard to have blood transfusions of vitamins at your hotel.
Yeah.
I never want to lose touch like that. And I'm glad that by and large I haven't. So that's part of why I feel bound to be like, yeah, I've had a lucky life, but the things that stick with me tend to be the small handful where I went, I'm doing this for money. They always haunt me. They do haunt me.
They are really haunting. That is so funny. I don't feel at any level ever a hotel employee should be required to come to your room.
Oh my goodness.
And put an infusion, a needle in your arm for any reason. That's not their job. That is not their expertise. And why would you even want that?
Samantha, I will make the bed. I will pre-make the bed.
Me too. I keep it so nice.
And then they come in and the sheets are tighter and the bed spread, it has less creases in it.
Yes.
But I feel bad asking them to even be around the area where my awful body has been touching the sheets. I cover it up, let alone ask them to come inject me with new age, non-FDA approved medical treatments. This insanity. My
husband and I we still have this theory, I guess, and I can't remember the actual ratio now, but it's like we have a theory about when you become warped or when people tend to become warped as a performer. And that is like, if you've been famous for more than half of the time you've been alive, then you're fucked. You're just not going to be normal after that. So you have to cut it off at a certain point. Or you're going to flip. You're going to flip the ratio.
I love hearing that.
And be bad.
I love hearing that because I will tell you, I have been tangled up mentally and emotionally for the past few years because I used to host this very hipster TV show. Mm-hmm. And when it got canceled, I have had some swings and misses, but some of that is that I have retreated a little bit. Right. Because I found it weird. I found the process weird. And I struggle with that. But talk about a choice. I'm like, I think I'm going to go live in New Jersey and do less stuff and kind of be full of, it's probably down to like 3 times a week now that I'm like, did I mess everything up in my whole career? And then the other 4 days a week, I go, I think I'm making good choices and it's good that I don't care. And then the 3 days that I care to a degree where it can sometimes just make me curl up in the fetal position.
Right. Want to listen to the rest of this episode? Head over to your favorite podcast player to hear the entire show. I highly recommend it.